On a cold Christmas Eve in 1945, the small Appalachian town of Fayetteville, West Virginia, was alive with holiday spirit. The Sodder family home stood on a gentle slope just outside town, bustling with the laughter and warmth of 9 of the 10 Sodder children. Children whose lives would soon become the center of one of America's most haunting mysteries. By dawn, 5 of those children would be gone, vanished without a trace, leaving behind only questions, theories, and a legacy of heartbreak and suspicion. The story of the missing Sodder children begins with George and Jenny Sodder, Italian immigrants who'd built a life and a thriving business in their adopted homeland. Their home was filled with the energy of their large family, 10 children in all, ranging from 2 to 23 years old. On the night of December 24, 1945, the Sodders celebrated Christmas as many families do, sharing stories, exchanging gifts, and savoring the togetherness that defines the holiday season. As midnight approached, the household began winding down. The oldest sons, John and George Jr., retired to their beds. Jenny, the mother, tucked in her youngest 2-year-old Sylvia and prepared to sleep. The 5 missing children, Maurice, Martha, Louis, Jenny, and Betty, were still awake, excited by their new toys and the lingering excitement of Christmas. They asked their mother if they could stay up late, and indulging their joy, she agreed, reminding them to lock the doors and turn off the lights before bed. At around 12:30 a.m., the telephone rang, breaking the silence. Jenny answered. A woman's voice asked for someone Jenny didn't know, punctuated by laughter and clinking glasses in the background. Jenny politely explained the wrong number and hung up, later recalling the caller's strange, almost mocking tone. Returning to bed, she noticed the lights still burning and the curtains open, small details she would later obsess over. Less than an hour later, Jenny was startled awake by the sharp sound of something hitting the roof, a loud thud followed by a rolling noise. She listened for a moment, but when all seemed quiet, she drifted back to sleep. By 1:30 a.m., the acrid smell of smoke and the flickering glow of flames jolted her awake again, this time for good. The Sodder house was on fire. Panic erupted. George, Jenny, and 4 of their children escaped, but 5, Maurice, Martha, Louis, Jenny, and Betty, were nowhere to be seen. George tried desperately to reach them, but the staircase was engulfed in flames. He ran outside, frantically attempting to climb up to their bedroom window, but the family's ladder was missing from its usual spot. He tried to start his trucks. Both, inexplicably, refused to work, despite having operated flawlessly only a day prior. Neighbors, drawn by the commotion, called the fire department, but the response was agonizingly slow. By the time firefighters arrived, the Sodder home had been reduced to smoldering ruins. The initial assumption was devastating yet simple. The 5 children had perished in the fire. Yet in the days that followed, cracks began to appear in that explanation. No remains, no bones, no teeth, no fragments were found in the ashes. Experts would later testify that even in a fire as intense as the one that consumed the Sodder home, the bodies would have left some trace. The absence of any physical evidence haunted the Sodders and fueled their doubts. In the wake of the tragedy, unsettling details began to surface. Details that, when woven together, suggest a far more sinister explanation than an accidental fire. The Sodders, especially George, had long been outspoken critics of Italian dictator Benito Mussolini. In the years leading up to the fire, the family had received threats and warnings from members of their own community. One visitor, seeking work, had ominously commented that the Sodder home's fuse boxes would cause a fire. Another, selling life insurance, warned that the Sodder house would go up in smoke, and their children would be destroyed in retaliation for George's anti-fascist views. The night of the fire, the phone call, the missing ladder, and the disabled trucks all seemed too coincidental. A neighbor reported seeing a man stealing a block and tackle from the Sodder property. Another claimed she saw the missing children peering from the window of a passing car as the house burned. A bus driver recalled witnessing people throwing balls of fire at the Sodder house. Weeks later, Sylvia found a green, hard rubber object in the yard, possibly a type of incendiary grenade used during the war. Despite these oddities, authorities concluded the fire was accidental, likely caused by faulty wiring. The Sodders refused to accept this. Their search for answers became a life's work, marked by endless appeals to law enforcement, private investigations, and a relentless drive to find their missing children. They circulated flyers, offered rewards, and even erected a billboard along Route 16, its bold letters pleading for information and keeping the story alive for decades. Over the years, tantalizing leads trickled in from across the country. Sightings of children resembling the missing Sodders were reported in Florida, Texas, and even as far away as New York City. A woman in Charleston claimed to have seen the children with 2 Italian men and women. In 1967, the family received a photograph in the mail, an anonymous envelope postmarked from Kentucky containing the image of a young man who bore a striking resemblance to Louis Sodder. On the back was a cryptic message: Louis Sodder, I love Brother Frankie, Elil Boys, A90132 or 35. The Sodders hired private detectives and followed every lead, but none yielded definitive answers. The possibility that the children were kidnapped, perhaps by someone connected to George's political views or to organized crime, took hold. Some theorized that the children had been taken to Italy, forced to assume new identities and raised in secrecy. Others suggested that local authorities, perhaps complicit or simply negligent, had failed to investigate thoroughly, allowing the real perpetrators to escape justice. The lack of remains, the curious behavior of the fire department, and the delayed response all fed suspicions of a cover-up. Skeptics argued that the fire had indeed been hot enough to destroy all traces of the children, and that the family's grief had led them to see patterns where none existed. Yet even fire experts struggled to explain the complete absence of remains. The official investigation was cursory at best. The fire chief, F.J. Morris, claimed to have found a few bone fragments and organs in the ruins, but later said he had buried them at the scene, a statement that was never corroborated and fueled further mistrust. When the site was excavated years later, nothing of significance was found. The enduring mystery of the Sodder children's disappearance turned the family into both local legends and national curiosities. The billboard became a landmark, a symbol of parental devotion and the unyielding search for truth. Jenny Sodder, in particular, clung to hope until her death in 1989, wearing black in mourning and tending her garden of flowers near the billboard, each bloom a tribute to her missing children. The case remains unsolved, an intricate web of facts, theories, and speculation. What really happened that Christmas Eve? Could 5 children simply vanish without a trace in a house fire, or did something far more sinister occur under the cover of darkness and smoke? The answer lies hidden in the shadows of history, in the half-remembered stories of a small town and the hearts of a family that refused to forget. Some modern investigators have tried to piece together the fragments left behind, using advances in forensic science and historical research. Yet the passage of time has obscured many details, and the trail has grown cold. Theories continue to proliferate, reflecting the complexity and ambiguity of the case. One theory centers on the possibility of a botched kidnapping. Perhaps the children were targeted because of George Sodder's vocal opposition to Mussolini, making the family a target for retribution by pro-fascist sympathizers. The unusual activity on the night of the fire, the strange phone call, the missing ladder, the disabled trucks, could suggest careful planning, as if someone intended to prevent any rescue or pursuit. The reports of a mysterious car seen in the area and the accounts of the children being seen alive after the fire lend some credence to this idea. Alternatively, some believe the fire itself was set intentionally, a distraction to facilitate the abduction. The object found in the yard, possibly an incendiary device, supports the possibility of arson. The slow response of the fire department and the lack of a thorough investigation into the cause of the fire and the fate of the children remain suspicious to many observers. Others maintain that the tragedy was simply a terrible accident, compounded by miscommunication and the chaos of the moment. In